Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling something pretty monumental: oikonomia, and this incredible pursuit of archival truth. I want you to just imagine for a second the sheer, mind-boggling scale of a national archive. We are literally talking about massive warehouses, bottomless digital vaults, and filing cabinets that stretch for miles and miles. It's all filled with the raw, unfiltered data of our history. It is the ultimate repository of our shared past, right? But here's the catch. Having access to history is very different from actually understanding it. When a nation's history is just buried under mountains of paper, how on earth do we piece the truth together without getting completely lost in the noise?
And that brings us to a really central, almost philosophical question. Can we ever really know what happened when power, secrecy, and history collide? To figure that out, we're going to look at what is arguably the ultimate test of American memory, and that's the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. I mean, it is one of the most exhaustively examined events in human history. It sits right at this incredibly chaotic intersection of politics, intelligence, the media, and public trust. For decades, it has stood as this giant symbol of our struggle to navigate complex, heavily contested history.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the real root of the problem comes down to one staggering reality: millions. For decades, the public narrative has essentially been that the main barrier to truth in cases like JFK is purely government secrecy. Just hidden files, right? But the reality is actually much more overwhelming. The real problem isn't just secrecy, it's scale. We are dealing with millions of pages of documents spanning several decades across countless different intelligence and law enforcement agencies. And to make matters worse, this massive corpus isn't just large, it's totally fragmented. It's like a giant jigsaw puzzle where the pieces don't quite fit. Just look at what actually makes up this archive. You've got the official government investigations like the Warren Commission. Then you've got a literal mountain of declassified intelligence documents. You have eyewitness testimonies that, let's be honest, shift and change over the years. You've got ballistics, forensics, and medical reports that outright conflict with one another. And on top of all of that, decades of evolving historical analyses. The testimonies disagree, the memories shift, and that contradiction isn't a bug in the archive, guys. It is the reality of the archive. Which leads us directly to a really profound realization. No single person can hold all of this in mind, but a deterministic, near-linear substrate can. Think about it. A human brain simply cannot process millions of conflicting pages at once. It's impossible. And traditional AI systems? Well, they completely fail here too, often hallucinating facts or just losing the thread of the story entirely. What we need is a completely new type of civic tool, a system built precisely for the massive scale of history. Enter oikonomia. At its core, oikonomia is a deterministic, near-linear reasoning substrate built for long-horizon, constraint-rich truth-seeking. Okay, I know, that is a lot of technical jargon. Let's break that down. First off, this is not a conspiracy machine. It doesn't promise to magically solve a historical mystery or invent some hidden plot. Instead, it is an audible, highly transparent engine designed to look at millions of documents and map out exactly how they relate to one another. To really grasp why this is such a game changer, let's compare it to the AI we're all used to playing with. Traditional AI models are what we might playfully call vibe-based. Because their processing cost grows quadratically, they can only really look at small slices of data at a single time. And when they hit a contradiction in the text, they tend to just blur it out or guess an answer just to sound helpful. Oikonomia, on the other hand, is constraint-based. It scales near-linearly, which means it can actually process the entire archive all at once. It is deterministic and reversible, and most importantly, instead of hiding those messy contradictions, it explicitly surfaces them by mapping out the hard constraints of who, what, where, and when. So the crucial point is this. This system does not decide the truth. It helps Americans see the evidence more clearly. I really want to repeat that because it is the absolute core of this entire explainer. This system does not decide the truth. It helps Americans see the evidence more clearly. It is built entirely on determinism, reversibility, transparency, and auditable reasoning. It never tells you what to believe. It simply shows you exactly what the evidence supports. And you know what? That transparency is exactly what builds trust. So how does it actually do this? Let's walk through it together. It starts by treating all these scattered fragments as a single continuous evidentiary landscape. Step 1, identify the entities. It literally extracts every person, place, organization, and event, and it normalizes all those confusing aliases and code names. Step 2, extract constraints. It pulls out hard physical facts, things like line of sight, ballistics, or specific timings, and attaches them to those entities.
Then step 3, propagate constraints. It ripples these facts forwards and backwards in time, seeing exactly how a document from, say, 1963 physically constrains an interpretation someone made in 1978. Let's move to and see how this builds into complex reasoning. In step 4, the system actively hunts for conflicts. It finds impossible timelines, like, claiming the exact same person was in 2 different cities at the exact same time. Or it finds missing links, and it brings them right out into the light. Step 5 then folds in long-range dependencies, taking a memo from one agency and seamlessly tying it to testimony from another agency years later. Finally, in step 6, it computes a stable reasoning state. Again, it's not hiding the incompatible claims. It's organizing them into a coherent, fully inspectable map. And that leads us to the final, absolutely critical step: emit structured, auditable explanations. After reading millions of pages, Oikonomia outputs a crystal-clear map showing exactly what is strongly supported by the archive, what is heavily contested, and where evidence is simply missing. Every single conclusion it presents is linked directly back to these specific documents and constraints. You can literally trace every single thought back to its original source. This brings us to a really powerful realization. Truth is not unreachable. It's just buried under scale, and scale is exactly what this substrate was built to handle. We have to remember that Oikonomia cannot rewrite history, but it can help us navigate it with clarity, honesty, and respect. It completely removes the old excuse that the truth is just too big or too complicated to find. What this ultimately offers citizens is a new kind of grounded hope. It offers hope in transparency, where there are no opaque, hidden weights driving the answers. It offers hope in completeness, knowing the system actually read the full archive, not just cherry-picked parts to fit a narrative. It offers honesty about uncertainty, clearly marking what we simply do not know. And most importantly, it offers hope in shared understanding. Citizens, historians, and journalists can finally look at the exact same constraint map and debate the interpretations, rather than endlessly fighting over which tiny stack of documents to trust. And while we've used JFK as our main test case today, the potential here goes far, far beyond a single event. This isn't about one event. It's about giving Americans the tools to understand any complex chapter of our shared story. This exact same constraint-based reasoning can be applied to massive public health crises, long-term environmental decisions, the intricate webs of financial crises, national policy histories, and incredibly dense scientific datasets. The goal across all of these is exactly the same: to make the evidentiary landscape visible and navigable for everyone. Ultimately, this is why the technology matters so much on a civic level. A democracy is strongest when its citizens can see the same evidence, understand the same constraints, and reason from the same foundation. Truth in a democracy isn't just about reciting facts, it is about shared, accountable memory. When we actually have the tools to collectively reason through complex evidence without all the noise, we strengthen the very foundation of our society. So, at the end of the day, Oikonomia brings less fog, fewer hidden assumptions, and a lot more shared ground to stand on. It's not about forcing everyone to agree on a single, neatly packaged narrative, especially when the historical evidence is genuinely ambiguous. It's really about clearing out the confusion. It's about providing a healthier information ecosystem where careful, honest investigative work is amplified rather than just buried under endless speculation. I want to leave you all with this final unifying thought. In a time of noise, clarity is an act of service. Oikonomia is built to help America see itself more clearly, not with certainty, but with honesty, transparency, and hope. Certainty is often a luxury that history just denies us. But clarity is where honest truth-seeking truly begins. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those hard questions and keep demanding transparency. Because if we can finally build a clear, audible map of our past, what previously unsolvable problems might we conquer in our future?